Oh, there I am. Oh, welcome to the Sunday stream. Spooky Sunday. I got my spooky videos queued up. And once I get my PC back, it is taking forever. I know. But once I officially get it back, I'll start trying to do some spooky games too, not just watching. And of course, get back to my other games, yeah. And I'll be back to my VTuber avatar. But anyway, how you guys doing tonight? How about we go ahead and get into these
identified
videos.
4 victims and plan on more than just the 4 murder charges filed today.
Alright. Please don't tell me that you... Son of a...
She looks like me.
Okay, good. It didn't... Instead of picking the tab, it decided to close the tab out. So I thought it screwed up my entire list, but it's back now. I got it. Okay. So here we go. Oh, wait. Hang on. Yay! Why does it look like that? Hang on. There we go, that's better. Alright. I'll turn the volume up a little bit, and here we go.
She looks like me. Huh?
Mortal Kombat is more than just a fighting game. At its absolute best, it's an immersive experience that evokes fear and that sense of unease when it really wants to. Not typically known for its scares, there are some truly unsettling aspects to the series made famous by its characters and over-the-top violence. Two things I've always enjoyed about the series as a whole are the atmosphere and the horror elements. I look back at MK Trilogy, for example, and just remember this eerie theme accompanying the main menu that sent a chill down my spine.
Oh yeah. That's creepy sounding, yeah. That is very creepy sounding.
Or traversing through the Netherrealm in Mortal Kombat Deception's Conquest mode, where you never really knew what to expect. These two examples merely scratch the surface of the creepiness that lies within this series. Now that October's arrived, this is the perfect time to explore the horrors of Mortal Kombat. So here's your formal invitation as we step foot into the flesh pits, traverse the endless halls of the crypt, and see how terrifying this series can get. Join me, if you dare. But first...
Your
like.
is mine.
Let's begin with the stages, because some of them evoke a level of dread unlike anything else. Chief among them is the Deadpool, which debuted in Mortal Kombat 2. There's just something about the foreboding theme coupled with the idea that one wrong step could lead to an acid bath. Sure enough, you can do just that after defeating your opponent.
Die, mortal. Fatality.
Now, there were rumors back in the day that you could execute an alternate stage fatality involving the hook seen in the background. The very thought of that adds another layer to an already eerie stage. The Deadpool is one of many stages that have become recurring fixtures in the series, appearing in Shaolin Monks, Deception, MK9, and MK11. We've even caught a glimpse of it in the story modes for MK9, MK11, and MK11 Aftermath. I'd like to highlight MK9 though, because it fulfilled artist Tony Goski's original vision of adding corpses to the background, adding yet another creepy element. As if the Deadpool itself wasn't enough, This is what you hear when you turn down the music volume entirely in the MK9 version.
Oh, here's streaming.
Later on, MK11 brought life to the Hook stage fatality, bringing that original rumor full circle. The Flesh Pits is another location we've heard about endlessly since the early days of Mortal Kombat. Although it didn't become a stage until later, the Flesh Pits led to the creation of one of the most iconic characters ever, and Mileena. The true origin of the Flesh Pits remains a mystery, but the concept of this horrendous place of torture and experimentation orchestrated by the series' two most prominent villains does a this place of Mileena. The true origin of the Flesh Pits remains a mystery.
What's thought to be Kitana's twin sister, Mileena, is actually a grotesque clone created by Shang Tsung. Shao Kahn, suspicious of Kitana's motives, Mileena seizes the opportunity to attack Kahn and his minions.
Mystery. But the concept of this horrendous place of torture and experimentation orchestrated by the series' two most prominent villains does a lot for the imagination. I referenced Mileena and Meat as two characters who emerged from the Flesh Pits, but Scarlet is also on that list, having been a product of another of Shang Tsung's experiments. Oh yeah, there's also this too. The Crypt Monster from MK9 is another vile creation.
Screw that thing.
Interestingly, we didn't see the Flesh Pits in their entirety until this game, where we get the reveal of many MK fans' favorite costume of all time. The stage itself is downright disturbing. Heads in jars, hybrid experiments in these pods, blood everywhere, hooks, chains, candlelight, the whole 9 yards. What's even more off-putting is the cleanliness of this stage. There is some blood here and there, but knowing that it filters through these grates and eventually somehow makes its way to the Deadpool makes these two stages siblings in spirit. It's clear that Shang Tsung takes pride in what happens in this chamber. The Flesh Pits returned in 2023's Mortal Kombat 1. Again, the venue where Shang Tsung conducted his experiments. It plays a more significant role in the story this time around, where we get to see the heroes imprisoned in the pits and having to fight their way out. I would say this version is more robust and has a bit more character, but nothing beats the MK9 version for me.
Pet the kitty.
Taven wins. Fatality.
Don't care. Oh, smack.
I don't think you can argue that Pit Bottom is the original Mortal Kombat horror experience. I mean, looking back on it, it's laughable, especially since you could see developer cameos in the background, including series co-creators Ed Boon and John Tobias. But that part aside, the very idea that you're battling among the blood and guts of warriors who were either pushed or fell from the bridge up top is grim. Like the Deadpool, MK9 introduced its own version of the Pit Bottom, and it's maybe not as creepy, but it's definitely more immersive. Gargoyle blood fountains, body parts as far as the eye can see, monsters eating those body parts, and it just looks like a place I'd never want to find myself. I stand by my belief that apart from Deadly Alliance, MK2 offers one of the darkest settings across the entire series. The Living Forest is another perfect example. The idea of this vast landscape beyond the screen limitations is unsettling. Living trees as far as the eye can see, presumably with sinister intentions, as would later be revealed in MK9. The forest is already dreadful under the wrong circumstances. Then you add in these roaring trees and this deceased individual, whose name is Ah-Ma, as confirmed by John Tobias. His true origin is known only to artist Tony Goski, and the imagination runs wild trying to rationalize what led to his fate. Like the Deadpool, several iterations of this stage have appeared up through Mortal Kombat 1, but MK9 would fulfill the fan fiction of a hungry tree stage fatality, a concept on the minds of many back in 1993. The most unsettling aspect of the Living Forest is that feeling of uncertainty as to where these trees came from and what has unfolded in their presence, apart from Jade and Smoke playing hide and seek. The last stage I want to cover in depth is the Kai Tin Hive, because this is the environment that was pulled directly from my nightmares. Do I even have to say anything about this one? It's not that I hate bugs, but this is just...
Oh my god, that thing is creepy, holy shit.
I couldn't imagine a more horrific setting to fight in. Not only is someone trying to take your life and potentially more, but Devora's entire family is crawling around behind you. I'd probably be more concerned with those than my actual opponent. but this, to me, is the perfect example of effective horror in a Mortal Kombat game. That goes double for the Crypt, but I'm getting ahead of myself on that one. I'd like to give an honorable mention to the Slaughterhouse from Deception, which is one of the more dreadful stages, especially with the meat grinder waiting to call game set. Goro's lair is another I can't forget, because this setting, followed by Goro's eventual arrival, was one of the earliest examples of horror in this series. There's also the temple for this theme. The Elder God stage from MK4 for this creepy theme. The Palace grounds from Deadly Alliance for this very reason.
Oh my god.
Last but not least, there's of course the Graveyard. The theme, paired with the backdrop, instills a certain level of dread. Rest in peace, Johnny Cage.
No!
I initially had Dark Prison from Deception also on the list, but then I played it without the music,
Oh, hey, Remy.
and the chanting prisoners really drained any creepiness out of the equation. The Crypt is a whole other discussion entirely when it comes to the horrors of Mortal Kombat. Even its first iterations in Deadly Alliance and Deception are unsettling.
I stopped scream sound effect.
Wandering through rows upon rows of coffins to a chilling theme and screams, just hoping to unlock a character, alternate costume, or just some coins.
Those stock scream sound effects would just make me laugh. Sorry. Hey! I saw that back there! Who's that sneaking around? Hey! Who's that? Why are you running? Why are you running? Oh, well, hi back there. Oh god, don't do the baby scream. Hey, mocap!
NetherRealm Studios completely reinvented the Crypt concept in MK9, and for 3 games in a row, this was the typical Crypt experience. Jump scares in movies are one thing. There's something I can usually either anticipate or withstand, but the newer gen Crypt experiences exist in part to evoke this type of reaction.
Dude.
Ew. I can handle the spider better.
Dude.
Did you pee and poop yourself a little?
Whether it's the Crypt monsters, spiders, or more spiders, it became a test of mental fortitude for me, and one I often lost. The Spider Caverns and Kai-Tin Hive, respectively from MKX and MK11, are the standouts from a horror perspective. And it's something I'd caution my fellow arachnophobes against exploring. There's just something horrifying about wandering the soulless tunnels of the spider caverns that stuck with me over time. To be honest, I didn't even enjoy revisiting it to get this footage. The focus on the aforementioned spiders is not to take the shine off of the random wolf or meat jump scares. But those spiders truly do provide a level of terror that doesn't require an explanation. The chitin hive in the MK11 crypt is similar, but the backdrop has more life to it. The jump scares are few and far between, so that's an improvement. But this is an area I don't enjoy spending much time because a fire-breathing spider is my personal hell.
Bro, I don't care about the spiders. I don't like all them damn holes everywhere. It's kind of triggering my trypophobia.
I think most would agree that The Crypt is its own horror movie, filled with dread, death, and jump scares. To a lesser extent, you could say the same for Conquest. There aren't too many creepy elements within Conquest mode, but some of the interactions and set pieces feel otherworldly.
The Dragon King watched from beyond death as events unfolded.
It's fascinating that over 20 years after its release, the environments in MK Deception specifically hold up. Whenever I teleport back to this world, I find it captivating. The two standouts for me are Chaos Realm and Netherrealm. Beginning with Chaos Realm, the layout itself is incredibly confusing. Teleporting platforms, bizarre areas, and NPC interactions that are devoid of life.
The realms are in fact the shattered consciousness of a singular being.
This is where we bury our deceased. Other strange things occur here as well, however.
I enjoy wandering aimlessly among the tombstones.
It's not the kind of setting I'd call scary, but this game paints a picture of what Chaos Realm seems like by definition. Everything is confusing, disorienting, and there's something about these mid-2000s character models paired with the soundtrack that doesn't quite sit right with me.
Oh my god,
Again, not scary, but off-putting as intended. The Netherrealm is another area that's somehow even less desirable, filled with demonic imagery, lava, and foreboding background music, if you can call it that. The character interactions here are something else.
Onaga was poisoned and slain by his advisor, Shao Kahn. In their purest form, the Elder Gods resemble the dragon symbol of the Mortal Kombat tournament.
Oh, they do?
Parents of the world, there is no satanic content hidden in the backward speech in Mortal Kombat.
Like Chaos Realm, much of the dialogue is reversed, which sounds ominous, but upon translation, it's harmless.
Rain is purple, get it?
You can also encounter meat, which is a fun Easter egg.
Skeleton.
Here, take this.
The main event in the Netherrealm, however, is a three-headed demon commonly referred to as Kochel. Many interactions refer to this mysterious figure, and it's tied to arguably one of the game's most difficult challenges. Does Kochel really stand for Coin Challenge, or is there something more sinister at work here? You be the judge.
Finish him!
Oh no. Oh no.
Fatality. Shao Kahn wins.
There have been hundreds of finishers across this series, but some reach a certain level of terror that previously didn't seem possible. Some are gruesome, others go beyond the gore, where you may not even execute that button combination just so you don't have to see it. Here are just a few.
Cabal wins.
Scare the soul.
Fatality.
Cabal's freaky face from MK3 is one that has always stuck in my mind as one of the earliest jump scares I can recall in games. No disrespect to Cabal, it's grotesque and unlike anything we've ever seen before or since. There's zero blood, and the fact that the opponent's soul runs away makes it unique.
Like Large Marge from Pee-wee's
Shiva wins. Fatality.
Shiva's stripped down fatality, which debuted in MK3, and really anything involving this concept, always gets under my skin. No pun intended. Separating an opponent's skin from their bones is downright disturbing, and it's even worse in MK9. She also has the spinal tap finisher in MK11, which is also vile.
Oh god, yeah. The noise it makes. Ugh. Oh yeah.
Fatality.
Geras' peeling back fatality falls into a similar category, where he completely separates an opponent's skin from their skeleton while all the organs spill out. This feels like an elevated take on Shiva's, and it's disgusting.
Yo, you gonna mention that kills you. Yeah, this one really got me. Oh no, that's a different one.
Not many can top Devora's new species fatality from MK11. This taps into that arachnophobia I mentioned earlier, where she
No, it's
pukes
the other
God
one that
knows
gets
what
me.
into your face before this chestburster homage takes full effect, and this arachnid emerges. No thanks.
Oh come on, you're not gonna mention the other one where she like basically. You're not gonna mention
Noob
the other one
Saibot's
where she
Make-A-Wish
basically
is a classic,
kills
and no
someone's
list
ass.
is
That one
complete
almost
without
made me
this
throw
one.
up when I
It's
first
become
saw it.
iconic over the years for its brutality, but I think the idea that the recipient could very well feel every ounce of pain up until halfway through the act is haunting. Honorable mention to Noob's Double Trouble from MK11,
Oh, no, that
because
one
I'd
is
rather not
awesome.
have a shadow clone crawl its way out of me through my mouth.
That one was awesome. Ugh. Ew.
Ermac wins. Fatality.
Ermac's inner workings finisher from MKX comes up quite a bit on this topic. It's easy to see why, given the act of them slowly pulling your intestines and other organs out through your mouth before crushing them. The sound effects in this one are unsettling to say the least, and it definitely belongs on this list.
Fatality. Frost wins.
Perhaps not the most memorable one to most, but Frost removes her opponent's brain and installs it into a cyborg in MK11. Are you still conscious? Can you control your new robot body but no longer exercise any free will? Yeah, I'm good on that one. Quan Chi's final offering is not one you'd probably expect on a list like this, but this one just freaks me out. He possesses the mind of his opponent, forcing them to rip their own face off before twisting their head off and handing it to him. It's the guttural noises on this one that get me.
Fatality. Liu Kang wins.
Another recent addition is Liu Kang's Black Hole Fatality from MK1. This is one of the most replayed because no one expected it. He teleports to outer space and makes a black hole appear at the snap of a finger, before proceeding to watch his opponents suffer to breathe as their skin melts down to just a skeleton. The eerie silence combined with the opponent struggling to breathe is a lethal combination.
Fatality. Fatality. Chronica wins.
Last but not least, Kronika's lone fatality from MK11 is probably the best thing about this character. It leans into her ability to control time and results in eternal pain and suffering. She splits the recipient in half 2 different ways and tears off their skin before putting them back together and repeating the same process. I can't imagine many fates that would be more horrific than that. What's on your list of the creepiest, most unsettling, or just outright horrific finishers? Let me know in the comments.
And old hatreds will be revived.
Let's face it, it's not all Scorpions, Johnny Cages, and Sonya Blades in this series. In fact, there are many, many characters whose presence and backstory are difficult to even fathom. Baraka was the first character who affected me on a different level than even Goro or Shang Tsung. The very idea that this otherworldly species exists with razor-sharp teeth and a pair of blades as weapons makes this someone I would never want to fight. I won't go through the entire evolution of the character, but he remained consistently horrific throughout the series. But nothing beats the snarling Baraka from Deception. This was the original character that I lost sleep over when I played the game as a kid, and I think it's fairly easy to see why. The vast majority of his fatalities are downright barbaric, as expected. And even though Tarkatans are only a species, the fact that this is someone you could go up against in a battle for the fate of the world is chilling, to say the least. He's rarely written to be a strong character in canon, so that should speak volumes to his design. Combine all that with his voice and brutality, and there you have a 24-pack of nightmare fuel.
Lena was created by Shang Tsung in his foul flesh pits. Twisted and mad, she's equally beauty and beast.
Let us dance!
This lineup would not be complete without Baraka's fellow half-Tarkatan, Melina. Now I know she's become a fan favorite over the years, with her fanbase rallying behind her at every turn, but the very nature of this character is truly diabolical. There's a reason I included this clip in the intro.
Sister.
Because it embodies Melina's very presence and impact on the series. In a sense, she is part of what makes Mortal Kombat Mortal Kombat. Born in a vile, repulsive environment like the Flesh Pits, Melina is one of only a few characters created through a genetic experiment. She is the result of Edenian DNA mixed with Tarkatan DNA. The Edenian half is what you see on the surface, her seductive nature, while the true essence of her viciousness lies behind her mask, concealing razor-sharp Tarkatan teeth that she often uses. These two components make Melina an effective assassin, one who does the dirty work of those controlling her, primarily Shao Kahn and Shang Tsung, but later also Onaga. Beyond her role in the story, Melina has some of the most stomach-churning attacks, finishers, and even simple things like intros and outros. Simply put, this is one of the most unsettling character designs ever, and she defined a generation of horror in video games. A true masterpiece.
Melina wins. Fatality.
Growing up through the 90s into the 2000s, Liu Kang was a constant in the Mortal Kombat series. You could always expect him there, fighting for the good guys and winning more often than not. However, in 2002's Deadly Alliance, the writers made a drastic decision that would alter the course of Mortal Kombat for the remainder of the 3D era. Few times in history did this series elicit an overwhelming sense of shock. Well, at least not until this happened. The snap heard round the world, followed by the infamous words,
Liu Kang is dead.
Just like that, Liu Kang was gone from the series, if only for a brief period. He returned one game later, but something was different. Liu Kang wasn't really Liu Kang. Reanimated following Shang Tsung's presumed death, MK Deception marked the emergence of zombie Liu Kang. The newly Dark Raiden sent Liu Kang's physical zombified body on a rampage, while his spirit remained in Outworld, fighting the war against Onaga. Zombie Liu Kang made his final appearance in Armageddon, looking to exact vengeance upon Shang Tsung, who took his life. Part of the horror of this period in Liu Kang's arc is the thought of his soul existing within the sorcerer having to witness all of his atrocities. The other part is the loss of a character that resonated with all of us. A heart of good and a willingness to protect Earthrealm turned into a mindless machine who ravaged his own Shaolin brothers. It just feels wrong, but you can't say it's not a compelling storyline. Seeing the hero of Mortal Kombat reduced to a zombie was unlike anything else. In a similar vein to Melina, Meat is another product of Shang Tsung's flesh pits. Unfortunately, where Melina got the looks, skills, and importance to the story, Meat received anything but that. Debuting unnamed in MK4, codename Meat was supposed to be a fatality model for characters whose flesh was melted off. You'd have to jump through hoops just to play as this character, who had zero backstory and wasn't even named in the game. It wasn't until Armageddon that we learned this mysterious character's true origin. Described as an experiment that escaped the flesh pits before he could be completely formed, Meat may have been on his way to becoming a male version of Melina. The result of this thing escaping captivity and having to live life in agonizing pain without purpose is a terrifying concept. He's appeared a few times here and there throughout the series. But nothing is more unsettling than his appearance in Armageddon. Just flesh dripping with blood and a character that, while an abomination, you can't help but pity. Meat represents the opposite side of the spectrum to Scorpion, proving that sometimes being a character in this series isn't what it may seem. He's the very definition of horror.
I kind of feel bad for
Havoc.
Another fighter you might describe as terrifying is Havoc, who hails from the aforementioned realm of chaos. Regardless of the timeline, Havoc is one that always sticks in my mind as one of the more horror-adjacent characters based purely on his appearance. The thing is, the original timeline never really explains how Havoc ended up like this. A face of half skeleton, half flesh, with blue eyes and either a hood or this helmet. In essence, Havoc passes the eye test from a pure terror standpoint, but understanding his ability to contort his body in battle and having no regard for himself other than to achieve chaos makes him even more unsettling. As I said, it's unclear exactly how Havoc came to look like this, at least at first, but the Mortal Kombat wiki contextualizes native Chaos Realmers, describing them as humanoid in form, with some bearing tattoos, strange markings, or even more extreme expressions of their individualism, such as Havoc's maimed face or contortion abilities. Another explanation emerged upon Havoc's return in Mortal Kombat 1, combining him with fellow 3D character Dairu. Scorpion burns his face to give him his iconic look. Titan Havoc later became the primary antagonist in the aptly named Chaos Reigns storyline, making him a serious threat to all timelines. This version really highlights the creepiness of Havoc. Everything about this character is off-putting: his appearance, his manner of speaking, and his entire philosophy are truly something else.
You have learned nothing. Chaos is unknowable, unpredictable. You are in no way prepared to stop the pain you will endure.
It's too bad at blue chunks. Ew. Disgusting.
This character analysis wouldn't feel right without including Devora, whose stage, crypt area, and finisher we've already touched upon. The Queen of the Kai Tin is another example of the horror capabilities that this series possesses. Debuting first in the Mortal Kombat X comics before the full release of MKX, Devora and her Kai Tin species were a new addition to the NRS era. From her debut through her last appearance in MK11, Devora has been a grotesque, conniving character with a creepy bug-like voice and a look that must be seen to be understood.
This one lives to serve Shiok.
You have done well. Now bring it to me.
Without delay, Anchi.
Black, lifeless eyes, sharp teeth, and just an overall insect-like presence that will make your skin crawl. Even more disturbing are her moves from a story perspective, having claimed the lives of 3 of the series' most beloved characters. The Kai Tin Hive, which I've covered extensively, adds another layer to Devora's impact on the series. She incites fear from those who aren't fond of bugs, and it's as if the developers created her to be repulsed. I would say, mission accomplished.
I wonder how many Hear Me Out cakes Devora is on.
Welcome to hell.
The demonic Draman of the Oni species is another that many believe is one of the creepiest characters in all of Mortal Kombat, and I'm inclined to agree. Once a powerful warlord, or rather a vicious landlord,
Draman was once a vicious landlord.
Draman was eventually banished to the Netherrealm, where he was tortured relentlessly. Filled with rage, Draman donned a mask called the Face of Kun Lo, allowing him to control his fury from all those years of pain and suffering. However, without the mask, all bets are off. I feel Draman embodies the horrors contained within this series. Just a character with one of the worst imaginable fates. His appearance paints an accurate portrait of his backstory. Weathered, worn-down skin, flies surrounding him, and a creepy mask. Without the mask, it gets even worse. It's a shame the developers infamously hated this character, because there is some serious potential with Draman.
Why did they hate him?
The final character I want to cover in depth is Shang Tsung, but not the one who eventually became a multiple-time loser and a joke. Instead, I want to cover the original Shang Tsung because I think it really sets tone for the entire series. The ambiguity of this character really plays in his favor. This mysterious old man whom you don't know much about. You'd eventually learn that the entire basis of this game is for Shang Tsung to orchestrate Earthrealm's 10th consecutive defeat in Mortal Kombat. Such an outcome would grant Outworld control over Earthrealm. Although Goro was the reigning champion and the one to ensure this victory, Shang Tsung ultimately had to take matters into his own hands. Fighting him is no easy feat. He throws these screaming skulls and can transform into any character he desires. His sheer presence is disturbing, and the laugh makes Shang Tsung even more menacing. Shang and Deadly Alliance and MK11 Aftermath are also terrifying in their own right, but nothing tops OG Shang Tsung. Honorable mentions who didn't quite make the cut include Goro, Moloch, Shao Kahn, Ermac, Reptile, and Cabal. I also have an obligation to mention Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, the Xenomorph, the Predator, and Ghostface. Because although I only wanted to cover MK originals, these 6 made their presence felt in the series. There surprisingly aren't too many unsettling story moments across the many Mortal Kombat games, but there are a few. I've already touched on Liu Kang's death in Deadly Alliance, his zombie reveal in Armageddon, and Melina's reveal in MK9. Those are unquestionably 3 of the most disturbing for me. Here are some others that I haven't covered. Let's begin with the Deception opening, which, in my opinion, is one of the best in the series. We get to see a brawl between Raiden and the Deadly Alliance after the successful destruction of Earthrealm's heroes. Despite his efforts, Raiden fails to overcome the odds, but the Deadly Alliance ultimately turn on one another before the Dragon King himself returns from the dead.
Onaga, former Emperor of Outworld, the Dragon King. The prophecy had been fulfilled. The Dragon King had indeed returned to Outworld to reclaim his army and impose his dominance.
This unlikely scenario forces Raiden to team up with the Deadly Alliance to defeat a force no mortal man could conceivably conquer. However, even Raiden's most powerful blast merely inconvenienced Onaga, painting him as the biggest threat to the universe yet.
Only one chance left. Raiden's sacrifice was in vain.
Seeing him standing over the rubble of the tomb of the Dragon Army, virtually unfazed by what just occurred, is chilling. This, along with Raiden's turn to the dark side, helped make Deception a terrifying time for whatever heroes were left standing. Next we move to this brief moment in the Shaolin Monks opener, which requires no explanation because it's terrifying all by itself. Just no. The opening scene in the 2011 Mortal Kombat reboot was the perfect way to restart the franchise. There's a certain level of dread in the air throughout this cinematic. Deceased bodies of nearly every character littered before the Pyramid of Argus. Some deaths are clear, others leave it to the imagination. The creepy music and vultures consuming the flesh of those who have already passed on really tie the sequence together. In essence, this intro reflects the real brutality we didn't get to see in Armageddon. Perhaps not one of the more popular moments in this category, but I've always felt unsettled watching Kentaro burn a perfectly human Cabal in the MK9 story.
Cabal! Base! Eagle 2!
No Eagle 2.
Need medevac, current position.
I've never really associated a specific moment with this outcome because we've always known Cabal to look like this. But imagining the immense pain and hours of surgery that followed is horrific. It's disturbing to see human Cabal for a brief moment before what we all knew would follow, because you just knew it was gonna happen.
Take it off.
Can't. It's permanent.
What?
No mask, no breathing.
I'm a freak.
Friend, look.
Araka is dead. Your last ally has left you.
Take her away.
Another moment involving Melina that deserves to be on this list occurred in MKX, where she had a drastically different role than in the previous game. Now a former Empress of Outworld at odds with Kotal Khan, she becomes a target for attempting to overthrow him. She's ultimately captured, which is the beginning of the end, as she is brought before Kotal, who sentences her to death. However, rather than doing it himself, he advises Devora to carry out the task, unleashing flesh-eating bugs that consume her face. The blood-curdling scream is horrifying. Another underrated creepy moment takes place during a flashback sequence where Raiden, Johnny Cage, and Sonya infiltrate Quan Chi's fortress. They locate a strange pool, which we eventually learn creates revenants. During a scuffle with Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Jax, Jax mortally wounds Johnny.
Johnny!
As he lays dying, Johnny's shape begins to emerge from the pool, which paints a picture of how these revenants came to be. It's disturbing to think that there's an alternate universe where a revenant Johnny could have existed, and seeing him emerge from this pool is unsettling.
You're weak, Thunder God. Johnny Cage is mine.
As the new rulers of the Netherrealm,
Back in
heed
that pot
me.
right there now.
No longer will I simply defend Earthrealm. I will seek out and destroy all who threaten it. No mercy will be shown, no quarter given.
Although Dark Raiden was never truly realized, the glimpses we catch in the MKX epilogue and the MK11 prologue are chilling. In a similar vein to Zombie Liu Kang, this is one of the first moments we got to witness a genuinely scary version of Raiden, who cared about one thing and would stop at nothing to protect Earthrealm. If only for a moment, it was off-putting to see Raiden in this manner. At his core, his mission to protect Earthrealm remained the same, but the extent he went to inflict pain upon Shinnok made him even more terrifying.
There are fates worse than death.
All I'll say is, we'll never really know what could have been. A few honorable mentions. Shao Kahn claiming Earthrealm's souls in MK3, Li Mei's Deadly Alliance ending where she becomes a Dragon Army slave, Devora torturing Johnny Cage in MKX, and finally, pretty much everything Sindel and Shao Kahn do in MK11 Aftermath.
Shao Kahn. He smashed my legs. Shao Kahn.
To drive this home, I don't think Mortal Kombat gets enough credit for the sinister atmosphere, finishers, and characters contained within.
Quan Chi wins. Fatality.
Growing up with this series has definitely had some eerie moments, and many of those feelings have stuck with me over the years. It's the very reason I hear the original Deadpool theme and remember back to a day when this was actually creepy. So now I'm wondering, what are some things you found disturbing, unsettling, or outright frightening about the Mortal Kombat series? Perhaps there's a topic, stage, or character I didn't cover, or maybe I did but I missed something. Let me know in the comments, and while you're at it, comment as a tribute to this poor, lost soul, and also for science. I do have channel memberships turned on if you'd like to support the channel like these gracious individuals, but no pressure. Also, if you enjoyed this adventure into Mortal Kombat horror, feel free to hype the video if you're on mobile because apparently it does something. As always, until next time, steer clear of the flesh pits, watch your backs in the living forest, beware the spider caves, and above all else, thanks for watching, and I'll be back with another video soon.
You're back! Did you find the map? Awesome! You rule, bub. Now I can get back to Earthrealm. Here, take $20 for your trouble.
Mortal Kombat is a franchise that is known for not shying away from violence and gore. It's even caused multiple controversies over the years because of it. So naturally, a series filled with gruesome and bloodthirsty characters would lend itself as great inspiration for a scary story or two. So today we're counting down a handful of those with our list of scariest Mortal Kombat creepypastas. Let's jump right in.
I know she did not just say pastas. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Starting us off, the demonic-possessed Mortal Kombat cartridge. This story follows a boy named Jake who played the second Mortal Kombat game on the Super NES for the first time. Now, having played other games in the series before, and having played MK2 on an emulator, he was excited to see what the console game was like, and purchased it online for a sweet $15. It was a red SNES, which is something that he had never seen before. But after doing some research, had found out that there had never actually been a red version of the console released in the US, or anywhere else internationally. Thinking he was an idiot for buying a fake console, he found himself pleasantly surprised when the package arrived at his house a few days later. A mailman had showed up at his door wearing a dark red uniform with a very strange look in his eye. Something was unsettling about this guy. He handed the package to the gamer who signed for it and then oddly lingered for a few seconds in silence before departing. Something didn't feel right. The gamer ignored it though and went inside and ripped open the box. This fake red Super Nintendo was actually pretty cool, so screw it, he thought. He plugged it into his TV and decided to give it a go. He started the game playing as his favorite, Sub-Zero. Match after match after match was more grueling than he had ever remembered. He had played for what felt like hours when he started to realize a faint screeching noise was coming out of his television. The matches got even more difficult, more brutal, and even more gory, and he continued to feel like he was being hypnotized. How could this be? Perhaps his cartridge was a fake too, and all of a sudden a bright light blinded him, and he fell backwards onto the floor. He couldn't move. From the corner of his vision he saw the box that the console was sent in. A letter had now appeared. He crawled over with all of his strength across the room to pick it up and read it. It read, "I am sorry I ruined your life. The game console and MK2 could kill you. It killed my older brother Joe. Play at your own risk." The gamer, still feeling incapacitated, crawled across the room again and yanked the power cord out of the Super Nintendo. The console returned to its regular color. Confused by the experience, he set it on fire out in his backyard and hasn't played a Mortal Kombat game since. Up next is Mortal Kombat .
Well, that was dumb. What? Are
you done with your stream?
No. Why? What is it?
Just asking.
Well, you know I'm gonna be a while, babe.
.exe. This creepypasta is about a gamer who one day was surfing the web for emulators when they found a game called Mortal Kombat EXE.
Of course, it can't be a video game creepypasta unless one of them is named .exe.
The game took up 2 gigabytes of memory, something that our protagonist thought was promising, since they had never played a Mortal Kombat game before that took up that much space. So it had to be great, right? Anyway, the game took over 4 hours to download, and when it finished was when things started to get a little weird. When the gamer hit the run button, their laptop burst into static noise and went entirely black. After a few tries, they managed to turn their laptop back on. Thinking their computer just crashed because of the download, they opened up the game and tried it out. No music played as it opened. Only a game mode selection appeared: arcade, versus, practice, options, and exit. So they clicked on arcade. That's when the music appeared, the typical Mortal Kombat theme, blasting through their speakers. Since it was a tad overbearing, they hit the mute button. A total of 276 characters were available to play, containing multiple versions of every single fighter that had ever appeared in a Mortal Kombat game before. The gamer chose the Mortal Kombat Trilogy version of Chameleon. Then it got even better. There was 500 stages to choose from. The player went with her favorite, the Mortal Kombat 1 pit. That's when the weirdest thing happened. Shao Kahn's voice came out of their computer saying, "Good choice." How was that possible when they had muted it? Thinking their laptop was simply struggling with the game, they continued and ended up fighting Hydro. Towards the end of the match, after being quite successful, Shao Kahn's voice echoed through the computer again with "Finish him." But that wasn't the strange part. What was that there was a list of names that came up on their screen, all friends of the gamers. Thinking that this was some weird meta feature of the games that somehow went into their computer, they selected one of them, a pal named Jordan. Then another text prompt appeared with a choice of fatalities, with a list of numbers to choose from but no explanation next to them, along with an option that read stage fatality. So of course our protagonist chose the stage fatality. Chameleon completely obliterated Hydro, causing him to drop into the stage's pit, with spikes impaling him. Chameleon wins, fatality. Then all of a sudden, loud pops burst through the computer's speakers and the game shut down, returning to the computer's desktop. An error that appeared that read Mortal Kombat.exe is not responding. Frustrated, our protagonists shut off their computer for the night, giving up. The next day at school, they looked for their pal Jordan to tell them about what had happened, and crack a joke that they had selected his name. But Jordan never showed up. Our protagonist would later find out that Jordan's mother found him in his room the previous night, with massive holes scattered throughout his body as if he had been impaled multiple times. And finally, our last creepypasta, Mortal Kombat 2: The Haunted. This creepypasta tells the tale of a gamer who had skipped out on class one day and found himself at a flea market, where he thought he had hit the jackpot. A very old Super Nintendo was up for grabs. Now, it was missing the reset button, but it had 2 controllers and Mortal Kombat 2. Mortal Kombat 2 was his favorite game growing up, and he couldn't wait to give it another go. When he went to buy it, the woman at the flea market said he could just have it for free. Others had purchased it before, and when they tried to take the Mortal Kombat cartridge out, they realized it was stuck. So they just returned the system. Now our protagonist gave the cartridge a tug. It was true. It was stuck in there real good. But he shrugged it off. MK2 was the game that he really wanted to play anyway, so he took the Super Nintendo home with him. Upon returning home, he plugged the SNES in and turned it on. Strangely enough, only a black screen appeared and a faint hum emitted from the system. That's when his phone rang. An unknown number. He answered it. There was only silence on the other end. The gamer hung up and returned his attention back to the system. The game's music then poured out of his television speakers. It went straight to the menu, skipping over the familiar dev logos that he had seen time and time again in the past when previously playing. Thinking nothing of it, he decided he would set the game to the highest difficulty to see if he still had all of his old skills. When he was skimming through the difficulty levels, he found one that was higher than very hard, a level called Realistic. He had never heard of this before, so he selected it and the game cut to black for about 30 seconds before text in Japanese appeared on his screen that he couldn't read. Flickers of images also scattered across the screen, all of mutated bodies and individuals who had no eyes with fear-stricken faces. The character select then popped up. The gamer chose his favorite, Sub-Zero, seeing a theme here, and upon selecting him, a blood-curdling scream echoed out of his speakers. Each character he fought died within one round, rather than carrying on to the best 2 out of 3. Every time he defeated someone and a new fighter showed up, the previous fighter's body would remain on the ground. Eventually, after a handful of matches, the gamer had accumulated a collection of corpses. Sub-Zero was starting to look tired. After a particularly difficult fight with Reptile and an almost near loss with Shao Kahn, Sub-Zero looked as if he were about to collapse. As each match went on, the sky would turn redder and spikes appeared in the background, with the heads of his previous foes impaled upon them. Then, out of nowhere, a child appeared on the screen, his eye sockets empty except for the blood that trickled out of them. More text appeared in Japanese that the gamer could not read. Then, out of nowhere, the child pulled out a knife, got close to Sub-Zero, and slit open his arms. As if the gamer was spiritually tied to Sub-Zero, he felt an immense amount of pain in his own arms, dropping his controller to the floor. He managed to gather enough control to smash the Super Nintendo to pieces just as the pale child leapt into the air with his knife towards Sub-Zero. Alright, there we have it, friends. Which of these creepypastas freaked you out?
That one was better of the 3, but still kinda silly.
The most. And are there other Mortal Kombat scary stories or urban legends that you think should have made?
That one actually, at least some of it actually sounded a little creepier, but you know, it's still kind of meh.
Made the list? Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know your thoughts. If you dug this video, spread the love, hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Gaming for more gaming creepypasta lists just like this one. Thanks for tuning in, friends. I'll catch you all in the next video.
Something doomed us to this rotting farm. If he's a ghoul, he should be put down. I can't let a rabid dog suffer, or that he won't go feral eventually.
It doesn't happen all at once. First, it's a cough that won't go away. Then your skin starts peeling away and your hair starts to fall out. The people around you stop looking you in the eyes. They say it's radiation sickness, but deep down, you know it's something worse. Days turn into weeks, and the mirror stops matching the voice in your head. The slow change into a ghoul. Some stayed sane and kept living, even as everything around them turned to dust. Others lost their minds, turning into feral ghouls that attack anything that moves. The worst part is that nobody knows when that line gets crossed. One day you're talking, thinking, remembering. The next, you're gone, but your body keeps going. That's the real horror. It's the thought of staying conscious long enough to watch your friends forget you, to feel your mind start slipping. Some try to fight it, and some pretend nothing's wrong. Others just wait for the day that it'll happen. Across the wasteland, there are stories of people who lived through that change, and what became of them after. A magician who still performs for an audience that no longer exists. Prisoners who outlasted their captors but never escaped their cell. And a traitor who lost his mind in the dark. If you guys enjoy Fallout, then you're definitely in the right place. We have a bunch on the channel and a lot more to come. If you want to stay in the loop with what's going on with the channel behind the scenes, you can follow me on Twitter or X with the link in the description. So stick around, guys, and consider subbing. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the vid. When people talk about ghouls in Fallout, they usually think of the mindless ones that charge at you. But Oswald the Outrageous is different. He's one of the oldest living ones, and his story is one of the most tragic in the series. Long before the bombs fell, a man named Oswald Oppenheimer worked as a magician at Nuka World. On stage, he called himself Oswald the Outrageous, and spent his days performing tricks in the park's Kitty Kingdom. His girlfriend, Rachel Watkins, played Princess Cherry in the King Cola show. But she wasn't just an actress. She had a degree in organic chemistry and dreamed of joining the Beverageers, the elite science team behind Nuka-Cola. The two were happy working together, surrounded by other entertainers who had become close friends. They thought that the park would be their future. Then, October 23rd, 2077 came. When the bombs dropped, chaos spread everywhere. The Nuka World staff tried to escape, but the employees from the children's section took shelter in the tunnels below. They thought it would be temporary, just until the fighting outside had stopped. But the radiation storms that followed the war were stronger than anything they imagined. Fallout swept into the valley and flooded the grounds, coating everything in a layer of glowing dust. No amount of shielding helped. People began to cough, their skin cracked, and their hair fell out. Oswald and his partner watched their coworkers die one by one. Some screamed as they changed. Their eyes clouded and their minds faded until there were nothing but feral ghouls. Rachel tried to save them. She worked without rest, mixing chemicals, testing formulas, and keeping notes. She called the condition the affliction, a sickness that turned people into something less than human. But every attempt failed. She was trained in chemistry, not medicine, and there wasn't much left to work with. The magician stayed by her side, using tricks to cheer her up and pretending that everything would be fine. When the radiation storms passed, only a few still thought clearly. Rachel, her partner, and a handful of ghouls who still had their minds. The rest were feral and locked inside the park's buildings. Over the next decades, the magician began to change more than the others. His skin glowed bright green, and he found that he could heal other ghouls by releasing radiation. When one of the ferals died near him, he could bring it back. He thought it was real magic, his final act as a performer. Rachel saw it as a mutation. She kept researching, hoping it might lead to a cure, but nothing worked. Each time another of their coworkers lost their mind, they called it one more afflicted. Then came the day she couldn't take it anymore. The place had become a graveyard filled with people who used to be her friends. She decided to leave and he let her go, believing she'd return once she found a cure. She promised she'd come back. He stayed behind, guarding the grounds, keeping the others safe, and waiting for her return. He kept the amusement park running in his own way, speaking through the announcement system and warning raiders and travelers to stay out. To the outsiders, he looked like a glowing monster living inside an old attraction. The mist that covered the area wasn't just leftover radiation. It was something he actually kept running to scare away intruders. He thought it would protect the feral ghouls still roaming there. He talked to them like they were alive, called them performers, and acted as if the show had never ended. To him, they were just sick, and he was waiting for Rachel to come back and save them all. But her journey didn't go far. She reached Bradburn, the town just outside Nuka World. But by then, she had started to change. Her hands trembled and her thoughts were slipping. Every settlement she visited told her the same thing. There was no cure. Ghouls just eventually lose their minds. She recorded her final message to the magician. She said she had learned the truth and couldn't bear to hurt anyone when she turned. She said she loved him and that she was sorry. Then she ended her life before she became feral. Back inside the park, he never heard that message. He kept performing for 200 years, speaking to the empty attractions and waiting for her. Raiders and travelers who came too close heard his voice over the loudspeakers. He was calling them guests and mocking them as if they were part of the show. People said the park was cursed. Some even swore they saw a glowing figure appear and vanish in clouds of smoke, surrounded by laughing ghouls. When the sole survivor finally reaches the area, they still find him clinging on to that hope. He still believes Rachel will come back. He calls the feral ghouls his cast, his performers, and anyone who threatens them becomes part of his act. When he finally hears Rachel's holotape, he understands the truth. She's gone and the cure never existed. He's been holding on to something that ended long ago. His story is tragic. It's about love that survived after everything else died. The park is his stage and his prison. The laughter isn't real, and the people he protects are gone in every way that matters. But he keeps the performance going, because it's the only piece of his old life he still has. Private Kyle Edwards once thought he'd finish his service and go home. He was just another NCR soldier at Camp Searchlight, standing guard and following orders. Then the Legion sabotaged the base. In the middle of the night, their agents broke into the fire station and opened containers filled with radioactive waste. Kyle remembers a flash and then pain spreading through his body. When he woke up, his skin looked burned and his breath tasted like metal. He saw a squad lying around him. Some were gone, and the others were standing, but their eyes were vacant and their movements broken. They had turned into feral ghouls. He was still himself, but barely. His voice was rough, his skin was cracked, and his hands shook. The infection didn't kill him, but it erased the life he knew. For a while, he hid inside one of the homes in Searchlight. The town was empty except for corpses and the wind moving through the ruins. Kyle dragged furniture against the doors and covered the windows with boards. Outside, rad scorpions crawled through the dust and feral ghouls wandered the streets. Inside, it was quiet. Days turned into weeks. The silence stretched longer every day until it started to feel endless. He stayed inside because there was nowhere else to go. First Sergeant Astor was still out there, patrolling what was left of the base. Astor said that even thinking ghouls deserved to die, that it was the only way to stop their pain before they went feral. Kyle couldn't accept that. When the courier meets him, he says, "I may be suffering, but I still want to live." He knows what he's become, but he refuses to give up. Word might reach him about a place called Ranger Station Echo. It was said to be run by ghouls, still serving the NCR. That idea gave him something to believe in. If he could reach it, maybe he wouldn't have to hide anymore. Maybe there were others like him who wouldn't see him as a monster. It was a small chance, but it was all he had left. Kyle is holed up in that house surrounded by dust and broken furniture. He's holding one of the NCR dog tags that Astor has been collecting from the dead. He admits he's too scared to leave because the town is crawling with rad scorpions, and he asks the courier to deal with them so he can finally go. You can lie and say the scorpions are gone, or clear them out for real. Whatever happens next depends on that choice. If he's told it's safe when it isn't, he leaves and doesn't survive. If the path is clear, he might finally reach Ranger Station Echo. We won't know what actually became of him. Some might think he made it, others believe the desert claimed him before he got far. Kyle Edwards isn't a villain or a hero. He's a soldier who lived through something no one else should have. The radiation didn't kill him, it just left him as a ghoul. He's not alive, but he isn't gone either. And he believes that this might just be a punishment you can't escape. And maybe he's right. If you explore Big MT and Old World Blues, you'll find a place that's quiet in a way that doesn't feel natural. It's called Little Yangsha, and what's left there isn't just another camp full of feral ghouls. It's a prison that never really closed. Before the Great War, the US military used it to hold captured Chinese citizens and soldiers. 3 trainloads of them were brought in, most not even speaking English. The detainees were kept behind fences lined with sensors and watched by guards who worked around the clock. The think tank scientists at Big MT wanted subjects, and the captives were easy to take. Every night, people disappeared from their barracks and never returned. When some tried to fight back or alert the guards, punishment came in the form of solitary confinement. Escapes became common because there was too many inmates to contain, so the camp's commandant requested explosive collars. Once those devices arrived, escape meant death. Each one was linked to the perimeter fence and would detonate the moment someone stepped too far outside. From then on, the inmates were trapped, living in fear and waiting for the next round of medical studies. Then the bombs fell. The sky turned orange and the mountain shook as Big MT was struck. Every soldier, every scientist, every captive who survived the blasts was sealed inside. The guards were killed or fled, and the think tank withdrew into their labs, abandoning the site completely. Nobody came for the people in Little Yangsha. Radiation swept through the valley and the inmates began to change. Their skin peeled off, their hair fell out, and their minds splintered. Over time, they became ghouls. Some went feral, others stayed aware for years before breaking. A few remain even 2 centuries later, the Yangsha camp survivors. 2 of those survivors are remembered only by their numbers, 27 and 34. Before the war, they were just prisoners in matching gray jumpsuits, tracked by the digits stitched across their backs. Once the collars were fitted, names stopped mattering. To the guards, these people were nothing more than test material. After the war, 27 and 34 somehow managed to endure longer than almost anyone else. Their explosives still functioned, but they found a way to beat the system. They learned to move through weak spots in the fence and avoid the sound trigger that would set off their devices. It took years of observation and trial, but eventually they found freedom, just not that far from the place that broke them. By 2281, both were still alive, still wearing their jumpsuits and collars. Whatever bond they shared kept them close. It could be that they didn't know where else to go. Maybe the world outside the fence didn't make sense anymore. After spending centuries in that valley, nothing was left except the habits that kept them alive. When you come across them, the pair doesn't speak or run away. Their movements are erratic and violent, caught between instinct and memory. Most of the ghouls left inside the compound can't speak. Some wander too close to the gates and explode when their collars activate. Their bodies are piled up near the fences. Even after 200 years, that system still functions. Inside the shacks are bones, beds, and half-rotted uniforms. The inmates who didn't die immediately spent years starving before the radiation finished them off. Those who turned feral roamed the ruins without a sound, dressed in those same uniforms. Number 27 and number 34 are the only ones who escaped the fence for good. But they never left the mountain. They lived just outside it, partly free but still confined. Their story ties directly into the greater horror of Big MT. The scientists saw themselves as visionaries pushing the limits of human progress. but what they left behind were people stripped of identity and locked inside an experiment that would unfortunately never end. The captives of Little Yangsha were some of the worst victims to be found in the entire series, treated terribly in a prison camp and then turned into ghouls and left to rot. So when you pass by that crater and see two glowing figures in old jumpsuits, remember what they are. Number 27 and number 34 aren't just ghouls. They're some of the last human beings who were erased, used, and abandoned by science. They survived the Great War only to spend centuries trapped. Luckily, the courier shows up and most likely sets them free, so to speak. But who knows just how long they had to suffer. Down in the sewers beneath the capital wasteland, there's a spot down there that almost nobody remembers. The tunnels twist for miles, damp and empty, until you find a small service room that someone turned into a home. The name scratched on the wall is Gallo. Before the war, nobody knows who Gallo was. After the bombs, he became one of the ghouls that crawled underground when the world outside started burning. The county sewer main line became his shelter, and over time, it became his prison. The air is thick with gas and decay. Whatever mind Gallo once had broke somewhere along the way. 200 years alone will do that. Radiation kept his body from dying, but it couldn't save his mind. It looks like he recently celebrated his birthday. He put on a party hat and set out chairs for guests that don't exist. His only company were two garden gnomes. In his fridge are feral ghouls, hacked apart and stored next to half-eaten meals. Gallo eats them alone, talking as if his guests are still alive. Inside the room, a small wire pen sits in the corner filled with rad roaches. Gallo keeps them as pets, the only living things that never try to leave, or at least I'm assuming that's what he thinks. Outside his door, he's rigged traps to keep intruders out, makeshift explosives and wires stretched across the passage. Anyone who wanders too close will never make it to his door. It's clear he used to be more than this. He wears a trader's jacket, the kind scavengers once used when they traveled between settlements. Back then, Gallo might have talked to people once, maybe even had a life before the sewers. But now, anyone who steps into his home is an enemy. He attacks on sight, screaming in words that barely make any sense. I also have to wonder if this guy had OCD or something similar when he was human, and maybe it even transcends his ghoul mind. Every object is in its place, every bottle lined up, every corpse stored neatly away. Down there, the seclusion, the radiation, and the years have turned him into something different from the ferals that roam the tunnels. They've lost their minds. Gallo lost his, but not in the feral sense. At least not yet. He proves that ghouls don't always go feral because of hunger or rage. Sometimes it's just the loneliness that finishes the job. Gallo has kept himself alive for centuries by pretending that he isn't alone, that his gnomes are guests, and that his fridge is full of food, and that the party never ended. But in the end, it's still just him talking to no one. In the back of the Museum of History, there's a room that doesn't fit in with the rest. It's sealed behind glass, and it seems different from the rest of the city. This place is the Chop Shop, Dr. Barrow's clinic, a place where ghouls come to be stitched up, studied, and treated. Most people think it's just a hospital, but behind one locked door, it seems like something closer to a laboratory. Behind glass and two containment cells is Ethel and Meat. They're not regular ghouls anymore. Both are glowing ones, their skin melted and glowing from radiation that's kept them alive long after they should have died. The pair used to live in Underworld, part of the same community that they're now shut away from. Exposure to too much radiation took their minds. They went feral and then started to glow, and now they're just test subjects. Dr. Barrows keeps them contained for research. He calls it science, a way to study ghoulification and maybe one day slow or reverse it. He watches them from behind the glass, recording how they react and move. Nurse Graves says not everyone agrees with what he's doing. Some ghouls think there's nothing to fix, and that they're meant to live the way they are. But Barrows keeps working anyway. He's sure there's something inside the process that explains why some ghouls stay sane while others lose control. Ethel and Me are his best examples. They're what he points to when he talks about how far ghoulification can go. They can't leave, and no one is supposed to go in. Most people in the underworld don't talk about them. To them, the Chop Shop is a clinic, not a holding cell for old neighbors who lost themselves. Barrows doesn't see monsters when he looks at them. He sees what he thinks might happen to him one day, and that's why he won't stop. He calls himself the foremost authority on ghoulification, but he never sounds proud when he says it. Ethel and Me are caught in the middle. They're not human anymore, but they're not gone either. Both stand there lit by a dull green glow while the underworld keeps moving outside their cell. Most travelers never notice them, but if you stop for a second, you can tell they used to be part of this place. Faces behind glass, eyes dim, and bodies that haven't stopped moving. It seems like a sad conclusion to their lives. Maybe some very small piece of them is still left in there, and now they're trapped like a zoo animal. Nowhere to go and nothing to do. Just endless time.
That's almost like that Chop Shop
Before the
place
bomb
that was in the series, the TV show that she got taken to, sold to. Yeah, it's kind of like that place. I wonder if that inspired it.
Sanctuary Hills looked like any quiet suburb. The streets had small homes with fences, and neighbors waved as you passed by. You might even meet some of them before the bomb. The Parkers, the Donahues, and Miss Rosa with her son Chris. When the alarms went off, everyone runs towards the vault, desperate for safety. Some make it inside, but most didn't. The ones outside begged to be let through the gate. Soldiers and Vault-Tec guards held them back. You can hear them shouting in the opening scene. Mr. Parker, Mrs. Donahue, and Miss Rosa all trying to reason with the guards before the blast. Rosa even calls out that she has a child, but none of them make it through the checkpoint. When the bombs fall, the screen fades, but that's not the end of their story. Radiation from the blast didn't kill everyone instantly. In Fallout 4's random encounter system, a traveling group of named ferals can spawn with pre-war names from Sanctuary Hills. Mr. and Mrs. Parker, Mr. and Mrs. Donahue, Miss Rosa, and Chris Rosa. And they never appear in fixed locations. They show up as a wandering encounter, and it can repeat over and over again. And those names obviously match your old neighbors from 2077. These feral ghouls are tied to Sanctuary Hills, and not every neighbor's full story is written out, but the connection is clear. Those names survived the blast as something else. When you return to Sanctuary Hills after leaving Vault 111, Codsworth still remembers them. He mentions the neighbors by name, not knowing that they're gone. The sole survivor never gets direct confirmation that the ferals in the Commonwealth are the same people, but the names in the random encounter all tied together. But how or why do they keep coming back even after you might encounter them and kill them? There's a lot of theories out there. Maybe it's just a gameplay mechanic, or maybe there really is a lore reason. Some people think that the sole survivor is just seeing random ghouls, and in their minds believing it was their neighbors. Maybe the sole survivor has trauma that they can't escape. Maybe these really are just your neighbors, and the sole survivor recognizes them. Whatever the reason, they are ghouls now. They were left out of the vault to rot and became monsters. People that the sole survivor knew well, maybe even been friends with. There are a lot more ghoul horror stories out there in Fallout, so if you want me to cover some more in a future vid, just let me know. Maybe drop some of your favorites in the comments and I'll include them in the next. If you guys want, you can follow me on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, with the link in the description. Thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. And remember, enjoyed time is never wasted time, and I'll see you in the next.
Some of you may have heard that Disney Corporation is responsible for at least one real live ghost town. Now, Disney built the Treasure Island.
Okay, so you remember the other? It might have been the last Spooky Sunday we watched the video about my dog went missing. That one. And it was done with this SFM animation. Yeah, well, this is one for one of the better creepypastas abandoned by Disney. So yeah, this is another one of those animations.
Resort in Baker's Bay in the Bahamas. It didn't start as a ghost town. Disney's cruise ships would actually stop at the resort, leave tourists there to relax in luxury. I mean, this is a fact. Look it up. Disney blew $30 million on the place. Yeah, $30 million.
30 million.
And they abandoned it. Disney blamed the shallow waters, too shallow for their ships to safely operate. And there was even blame cast on the workers, saying that since they were from the Bahamas, they were too lazy to work a regular schedule. And that's where the factual nature of the story ends. It wasn't because of sand, and it obviously wasn't because foreigners are lazy. Even though, I guess, both are convincing excuses. No, I sincerely doubt those reasons were legitimate. Why don't I buy the official story? Because of Mowgli's palace. Near the beachside city of Emerald Isle in North Carolina, Disney began construction of Mowgli's palace in the late 1990s. Well, the concept was a jungle-themed resort with a large, you guessed it, palace in the center of the whole thing. If you're unfamiliar with the character of Mowgli, then you might better remember the story, The Jungle Book. If you haven't seen it anywhere else, then you know it as the Disney cartoon from decades past. Mowgli is an abandoned child in the jungle, essentially raised by animals and simultaneously threatened/pursued by other animals, etc., etc. Mowgli's palace was a controversial undertaking from the start. Disney bought up a ton of high-priced land from the project, and there was actually a scandal surrounding some of the purchases. The local government claimed eminent domain on people's homes. They turned around, sold the properties to Disney. At one point, a home that had just been constructed was immediately condemned with little to no explanation.
Clip my cat's nails.
And the land grabbed up by the government was supposedly for some fictional highway project. Knowing full well what was going on, people started calling it Mickey Mouse Highway. Then there was the concept art. A group of stuffed shirts from Disney Co. actually held a city meeting. They intended to sell everyone on how lucrative this project was going to be for everyone. When they showed the concept art, this gigantic Indian palace surrounded by jungle, staffed with men and women in loincloths and tribal gear, well, suffice to say, everyone flipped their shit.
Yeah.
We're talking about a large Indian palace, jungle, and loincloths, not only in the center of a relatively wealthy area, but also a somewhat xenophobic area of the southern US. It was a questionable mix at that point in history. One member of the crowd tried to storm the stage, but he was quickly subdued by security after he managed to break one of the presentation boards over his knee. Disney took that community and essentially broke it over its knee as well. The houses were razed. The land was cleared. There wasn't a damn thing anyone could do or say about it. Local TV and newspapers were against the resort at the beginning, but some insane connection between Disney Media's holding and the local venues came into play,
You're a bit late.
and their opinions turned on a dime. So, anyway, Treasure Island, the Bahamas. Disney sunk those millions in and then split. The same thing happened with Mowgli's palace. Construction was complete. Visitors actually stayed at the resort. The surrounding communities were flooded with traffic and the usual annoyances associated with the influx of lost and irate tourists. Then it all just stopped. Disney shut it down. Nobody knew what the hell to think, but they were pretty happy about it. And Disney's loss was pretty hilarious and wonderful to a large group of folks who didn't want this in the first place. And I honestly didn't give the place another thought since hearing it closed over a decade ago. I live maybe 4 hours from the Emerald Isle, so really I only heard the rumbling and didn't experience any of it firsthand. Then I read this article from someone who had explored the Treasure Island Resort and posted a whole blog about all the shit he found there. Stuff just left behind. Things smashed, defaced, probably ruined by the disgruntled former employees who had lost their jobs. Hell, the locals from all around probably just had a hand in wrecking that place. People there felt just as angry about Treasure Island as folks did about Mowgli's palace. Plus, there's rumors that Disney had released their aquarium stock into the local waters when they closed, including sharks. Who wouldn't want to take a few swings at some merchandise after that? Well, what I'm getting at is that this blog about Treasure Island got me thinking. Even though many years had passed since its closing, I figured it might be cool to do some urban exploration at Mowgli's palace. Take some photos, write about my experience, and probably see if there's anything I could take home as a memento. I'm not gonna say I wasted no time in getting there, because honestly, it took me another year after I first found that Treasure Island article to get around to going up to Emerald Isle. Over the course of that year, I did a lot of research on the Palace Resort, I tried to. Naturally, no official Disney site or resource made any mention of the place that had been scrubbed clean. Even odder was that nobody before myself had apparently thought to blog about the place or even post a photo. None of the local TV or newspaper sites had one word about the place, though that was to be expected since they all swung Disney's way. They wouldn't be out there lauding their embarrassment, you know. Recently, I learned that corporations can actually ask Google, for example, to remove links from search results, basically for no good reason. Looking back, it's probably not that nobody's spoken of the resort, but rather their words were made inaccessible. So in the end, I could barely find the place. All I had to go on was an old as hell map that I had received in the mail back in the 90s. It was a promotional item sent out to people who had recently been to Disney World, and I guess since I had been there in the late 80s, that was recent. I didn't really intend to hang on to it. It just got shoved into my books and comics from my childhood. I'd only remembered it months into my research, and even then, it took me another few weeks to locate the storage bin my parents shoved it all into. But I did find it. Locals were no help, as most were transplants who had moved to the beach in recent years, or old residents who just sneered at me and made rude gestures the second I managed to say, "Hey." The drive took me through an inordinately large corridor of overgrowth. Tropical plants that had run rampant and overpopulated the area, mixed with the native species of flora that actually belonged there and had tried to reclaim the land. And I was in awe when I reached the front gates of the resort. Tremendous, monolithic wooden gates whose supports to either side looked like they must have been cut from giant sequoias. And the gate itself had been gouged in several places by woodpeckers, eaten away at the base by burrowing insects. Hanging on the gate was a sheet of metal, some random scrap, with a hand-painted letter scrawled in black. Abandoned by Disney. Clearly, the handiwork of some local or an employee who wanted to make some small protest. The gates were open enough to walk through, but not drive. So grabbing my digital camera and the map, whose flip side showed a layout of the resort, I set off on foot. The inner grounds of the place were just as overgrown as the entryway. Palm trees stood unattended and ragged among piles of their own coconuts. Banana plants simply stood in their own stinking, bug-ridden refuse. There was this sort of clash between order and chaos, as carefully planted rows of perennial flowers mixed with obnoxious tall weeds and stinking blackened mushrooms. All that remained of any outdoor structures were broken, rotted wood and various charred bits of unidentifiable material. What was most likely an information booth or an outdoor bar was now simply a pile of assorted debris, chopped up by past vandalism and ravaged by weather. The most interesting thing on the grounds was a statue of Baloo, the friendly bear from the Jungle Book, which stood in a sort of courtyard in front of the main building. He was frozen in a jovial way towards no one, staring into empty space with a silly, toothy grin, as bird shit covered whole swaths of his fur and vines ensnared his platform. I approached the main building, the palace, only to find the outside of the building covered in graffiti where the original paint had been peeled and chipped away. And the front doors weren't just open, they had been taken off their hinges. Well, were stolen. Above the front doors were the gaping maw that they had once been. Someone had or radio in one room, as I really think I heard a quiet conversation coming out. Though it was like a whisper. Probably even my own breath just echoing in silence, or just another case of the sound of flowing water playing tricks on the mind. It sounded like... I didn't believe it. Yes. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Your father told you.
Oh my god, I do not like how the voices are going in each and
I know. That sounds ridiculous. I'm just telling you what I experienced.
Like one in my left
Why I thought there might have been some running in that room, or were some vagrants who had pulled up there and probably would have knifed me. At the front doors of the palace again, I figured I hadn't found anything of note and had wasted the trip up. And as I looked out the door, I noticed something interesting in the courtyard that I'd apparently missed. Something that would give me at least one thing to show for all my trouble, even if it was just a photograph. There was a lifelike statue of a python, maybe 8 feet long, coiled up and sunning itself on a pedestal right in the center of the area. It was almost time for the sun to start setting, so the light fell into the object in a perfect way for a photograph. I approached the python and I snapped a photo, and then I stood on my toes and snapped another. And I moved closer again to get the details of its face. Slowly, casually, the python lifted its head and looked directly into my eyes, turned so that off the pedestal, across the grass and into the trees, all 8 feet of it, its head long disappeared into the woods before its tail even left the sunning spot. Disney had released all their exotic animals onto the grounds. Right there on my floor plan was the reptile house. Oh, I should have known. I'd read about the sharks at Treasure Isle, and I should have known that they'd done this. I was dumbfounded, just utterly stupefied. My mouth must have been hanging open for the longest time before I came back down to earth and snapped it shut. I blinked a few times and backed away from where the snake had been, back towards the palace. Even though it was totally gone, I still wasn't taking any chances and backed my way into the building. I took a few deep breaths and slapped to my own face to get myself right in the head again after that. I looked for a place to sit down as my legs were feeling a bit like jelly at this point. Of course, there was no place to sit down unless I wanted to recline in the broken glass and dead leaf carpet or haul myself up onto a desk of questionable reliability. I had seen some stairs near the palace lobby and decided to go have a seat there until I felt better. The staircase was far enough away from the front of the building to be relatively clean, save for a startling accumulation of dust. I pulled the wedge of metal off the wall, once again painted with "Abandoned by Disney," that motto that I'd become accustomed to. I placed the wedge on the stairs and sat on it to keep at least somewhat clean. The stairway led downward, below ground level. Using my camera flash as a sort of improv flashlight, I could see that the staircase ended in a metal mesh door with a padlock. A sign on the door, a real sign, read, "Mascots only. Thank you." This perked up my spirits a little bit for two reasons. One, a mascots only area would definitely have something interesting. And two, the padlock was still in place. Nobody had gone down there. Not the vandals, not the looters, nobody. This was the one place I could actually explore and perhaps find something interesting to photograph or wantonly steal. I had come to the palace essentially agreeing with myself that It was okay to take anything I wanted because, hey, abandoned. It didn't take much to bust the lock. Well, actually, that's wrong. It didn't take much to bust the metal plate on the wall that the padlock was hooked to. Time and decay had done most of the work for me, and I was able to bend the metal plate enough to pull the screws out of the wall, something nobody else had apparently thought of, or hadn't been able to do at the time. The mascot's only area was a startling and very welcome change from the rest of the building that I'd seen. For one, every second or third fluorescent light overhead was illuminated, even though they flickered and faded randomly. Also, nothing had been stolen or broken, even if age and exposure were definitely taking their toll. Tables had notepads and pens, there were clocks, even a punch-in clock on the wall, complete with filled-out time cards. Chairs were scattered around, and there was even a small break room with an old static-filled television, long rotted-out food and drinks on the counter. It was like one of those post-apocalyptic movies where everything is left in the state of evacuation. As I walked the maze-like sub-basement, hallways of the mascot's only area, the sights just became more and more interesting. As I went further, desks and tables were knocked over. Papers scattered, almost melded with the damp floor, and a large carpet of mold was slowly overtaking the real rotting crimson floor covering. Everything was just sort of squishy. Anything wood disintegrated into mush whenever I applied even the least amount of force, and clothing items hanging on hooks in one of the rooms simply fell to moist threads if I tried to unhook them. One thing that annoyed me was the light was becoming more sparse and unreliable as I went further into the dank, suffocating depths of the place. Eventually, I reached a black and yellow striped door with the words "Character Prep" stenciled in it. The door wouldn't open at first. I figured this is probably where the costumes were kept, and I definitely wanted a photograph of that twisted, stinking mess. Try as I might, whatever angle or trick I tried, the door wouldn't budge. That is, until I gave up and started to walk away. That was when there was a slight popping sound, and the door creaked open slowly.
Oh, hell no.
Inside the room was completely dark, pitch black. I used the camera flash to look for a light switch on the wall by the door, but there was nothing. As I made my search, I was jarred out of this sense of excitement by a loud electric buzz. Rows of lights overhead suddenly flashed up to life, flickering and fading in and out like the rest that I had passed. It took a second for my eyes to adjust, and it seemed like the light was going to just keep getting brighter until all the bulbs exploded. But just when I thought that it would reach that critical stage, the lights dimmed a bit and steadied. The room was exactly as I had pictured it. Various Disney costumes hung on the wall, fully put together like strange cartoon cadavers hung from invisible nooses. These were an eerie rack of loincloths and native costumes on hangers towards the back. Now, what I found odd, and what I wanted to photograph right away, was a Mickey Mouse costume at the center of the room. Unlike the other costumes, it was lying on its back in the center of the floor like a murder victim.
I know he's using all the models from the Five Nights at Treasure Island game.
The fur on the costume was rotted, shedding, creating bare patches. What was even odder, however, was the coloring of the costume.
Which makes
it was
sense,
like a photo negative of the actual Mickey Mouse. Black where he should have been white, white where he should have been black. His normal red overalls were light blue. The sight was off-putting enough that I actually put off photographing the thing until last. I took a photograph of the costumes hanging on the wall. Upward angles, downward angles, side shots to show an entire row of frozen, putrid cartoon faces, some with plastic eyes missing. And then I decided to stage a shot, just one of the bedraggled character heads on a slick, grimy floor. I reached out for a headpiece of Donald Duck costume and carefully removed it so the thing wouldn't fall apart in my hands. And as I looked into the face of the wide-eyed, moldering head, a loud clattering sound made me jump with fright. I looked down at my feet. And there between my shoes was a human skull. It had fallen out of the mascot head and shattered into pieces at my feet. Only the empty face and lower jaw remained staring up at me. I dropped the duck head immediately, as you'd expect, and moved for the door. As I stood in the doorway, I looked back to the skull on the floor. I had to take a picture of it, you know? I mean, I had to. For any number of reasons that may seem silly, but only if you don't think it through. I'd need proof of what happened, especially if Disney was going to somehow make this go away. I had no doubt in my mind, right from the start, that even if it was just gross negligence, Disney was responsible for this. That's when Mickey, that photo-negative Mickey opposite Mickey in the middle of the floor, started to get up. First sitting up, then climbing to his feet. The Mickey Mouse costume, or whoever was inside of it, stood there at the center of the room, its fake face just staring directly at me as I mumbled, no, over and over and over, with shaking hands, a violently thrashing heart, and legs that had once again turned to jelly. I managed to lift the camera, aim it at the opposite creature, now quietly sizing me up. The digital camera screen displayed only dead pixels in the shape of the thing. It was a perfect silhouette of the Mickey costume. As the camera moved in my unsteady hands, the dead pixels spread, marring the screen wherever Mickey's outline moved to. Then the camera died. Went blank, quiet, and broken. I raised my eyes once again to the Mickey Mouse costume.
Well, now we're playing it back.
Hey! It said in a hush, perverted but perfectly executed Mickey Mouse voice. Wanna see my head come off? It started to pull at its own head, working it clumsily, clad fingers around its neck and clawing impatiently, movements similar to a wounded man trying to pull himself free of a predator's jaws as it worked its digits into its neck. So much blood, so much thick, chunky, yellow blood. I turned away as I heard a sickening tearing of cloth and flesh, only cared about getting away. Above the doorway, out of this room, I saw the final message clawed into the metal with bone or fingernails. Abandoned by God. I never got the picture out of the camera. I never wrote the blog entry about it. After I ran from that place, I fled for my sanity, if not my very life. I knew why Disney didn't want anyone to know about this place.
It was scary until that part. Then that's just cliche.
They didn't want anyone like me getting in. They didn't want anyone like that getting out.
Okay, so that was SFM animation of Abandoned by Disney. Like I said, it's a really good story, pretty well written until that last part there, and then it gets a little corny. Anyways, that's probably gonna do it for the Spooky Sunday. I'm probably cutting off a little short. Well, I don't know. Maybe we got time for I don't know. Let me see if we've got time for one more video. Yeah, we got time for. I think we can do one more video.
I'm remaking Slenderman as a retro PlayStation X style horror game. Slenderman is one of the most famous internet horror legends. Back in the early 2000s, people were terrified playing the classic game where you walk through a dark forest collecting 8 pages. And I thought, why not bring that experience back, but in PlayStation 1 style? First, we import the original game models. There are vehicles, buildings, and this tree that looks really weird. After importing everything we need, this is what we get. Yeah, I know, none of this was supposed to be pink. The models came with broken textures, so we fixed them one by one. Now we move everything to Unity, where the magic happens. I build the forest, paint the ground, add grass, and slowly the empty map starts coming to life. But let me show you the characters. This is Rebecca, our main character. No, I don't have a story for her yet. If you have ideas, drop them in the comments. And here's the other character, Slender. Now we give Rebecca movement, then comes lighting. With just a small light around Rebecca, the mood completely changes. But the hardest part was the map. I spent 3 full days on it, hours placing trees, painting terrain, fixing the ground shape. And then I had to place these green boxes everywhere. Look, drag here, here, here. Seems easy, right? No, it's boring, very boring. Now imagine doing this hundreds of times across the map. Actually, don't imagine, look at this.
Oh my gosh.
After that nightmare, I finally placed the 8 pages around the map. One here, one there, another one here, and the rest you'll find when you play. Then comes the best part, Slenderman himself. He hides between the trees while you explore. If you see him, you need to turn and take a photo with your camera. But if you don't notice him, he will notice you. And then it's game over. Here's the first gameplay test. Retro PSX graphics, fixed cameras, tank controls, and Slenderman lurking in the dark forest. This is the first video on the channel. If you liked this retro PSX Slenderman remake, leave a like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which horror game you'd like to see remade in this style.
So now that'll do it for Spooky Sunday. Right. So, is there anybody to raid? There's Chunky. We haven't raided Chunky in a bit. Let's see if we can raid Chunky. Alright, guys. Thanks for joining me on another Spooky Sunday. Saturday Chill stream is being uploaded currently. I'm having to do all the cut out the copyright junk and all, but yeah, that's coming up. And anyway, yeah, love you guys. I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.